There are at least 3 ways to build most EDH decks. Strong. Fun. And mean. Ooh. Let's look at the strong, fun, and mean ways that I would build Prossh, Skyraider of Kher, and the video starts right now. Special thanks to our Patreon supporters who power our channel. Check out our Patreon for monthly giveaways, exclusive content, and even a starring role in our fan fight series. Link in the description below. Hello and welcome to the day. Thank you for spending your time with us. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. I am Joel. We are going to talk about Prossh, Skyraider of Kher, and the 3 ways that I would build him. But first, if you would, go down there, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you like the video by the end of it. It really helps us out. And if there's a commander that you want me to build 3 ways, leave it in the comments and you might see it in an upcoming video. Let's jump over to this commander. So, I showed you in the opening, Prossh, Skyraider of Kher is one of my personal commanders. I am a huge fan of this commander, and I am very excited to finally be covering it in a video. Let's take a look at it. Prossh, Skyraider of Kher, 1 green, 1 red, 1 black, 3 other for a legendary 5/5 dragon. When you cast this spell, create X01 red kobold creature tokens named Kobolds of Kher Keep, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast it. It does have flying, and it has sacrifice another creature at instant speed. Prossh, Skyraider of Kher gets +1/+0 until end of turn. The best thing about this commander is that it comes into the battlefield with a bunch of guaranteed 0/1 tokens. The first time it comes into the battlefield with 6 tokens, then the next time 8 tokens, then the next time 10 tokens, and so on, as the commander tax for Prossh gets higher and higher. Having those to count on, though, we can do a lot of fun stuff with that. The strong way that I would build Prossh is lean into it and go for a broken token strategy. The fun way is Prossh likes to eat his little kobolds, so we're going to get the munchies for the fun side. And for the mean way, we're going to lean into the CEDH and go with a food chain Prossh combo. Let's look at the strong way. On our commander, we're already guaranteed that we are getting at least 6 tokens, then 8, then 10, every single time Prossh is cast. Now note, it's not enters the battlefield, so unfortunately we're not going to be able to play around with any blink shenanigans, but just creating those 6, then 8, then those 10 tokens can be enough. Let's lean into that and build some redundancy into that guaranteed token creation, starting with Awakening Zone. A green and 2 for enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token onto the battlefield. It has sack it to add 1 mana to your mana pool. We don't really care about that second ability. All we want is guaranteed 0/1s or guaranteed 1/1s, really guaranteed tokens that residually come in every single turn, because we're going to have some pretty big payoffs for those on the other side. Bitter Blossom is another example of an enchantment that works great for this. 1 black, 1 other. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose a life and you put a 1/1 Black Fairy Rogue creature token with flying into play. Guaranteed token creation. Dreadhorde Invasion, 1 black, 1 other enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and you amass 1, which is either create a 0/0 army, zombie army token, and put a +1/+1 counter on it, or put a +1/+1 counter on an army token that you already have. This one doesn't go very wide. It's sort of a pet card of mine, is why I included it. It doesn't go wide like we necessarily want, but it does guarantee token creation, which we're going to have payoffs for. And we have at the bottom, whenever a zombie token you control with power 6 or greater attacks, it gains lifelink until end of turn. It can offset the life that you're losing to itself, but normally we're going to be sacking those tokens to do some fun stuff. Creekwood Liege is a great inclusion here. You've got 3 hybrid mana, either black or green, +1 for a 2/2 horror. Other black creatures you control get +1/+1. Other green creatures you control get +1/+1. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a 1/1 black and green Wurn creature token into play. We're going to have 3/3 tokens created while Liege is on the battlefield, but really all we care about, again, is the residual creation of more and more tokens onto our battlefield. Dragon Broodmother is awesome because it represents what we want to do as our base strategy, and it starts pushing us into some payoffs. 1 green, 3 red, and 2 other for a 4/4 flying dragon. At the beginning of each upkeep, put a 1/1 red and green dragon creature token with flying and Devour 2 into play. And Devour says, as the token comes into play, or as a creature with Devour comes into play, you can sacrifice any number of creatures creatures, maybe all of our 0/1s that we've been creating, it comes into play with twice that many +1/+1 counters on it, so we can turn all of our little creature tokens into one big huge creature. So you can start seeing kind of where we're headed with this, which is cards like Mycoloth. Mycoloth is going to pull double duty for us again. 2 green, 3 other for a 4/4 fungus with Devour 2. So when it comes into play, we're going to sacrifice any number of creatures, and Mycoloth comes into play with that many, twice that many +1/+1 counters on it. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you get to put a 1/1 green sapperling creature token into play for each 1/1 counter on it. So it's going to replace those tokens that it ate. And we're going to residually be adding tokens to the battlefield, and that's what we want. A Phiomancer does this, 1 black, 2 other human shaman, 2/2 at the beginning of each upkeep, not just yours, your opponent's too. If you control no snakes, put a 1/1 black snake creature token with Death Touch onto the battlefield. You can see what we're doing here. It's very straightforward. We're going to first set a base of redundancy of creating tokens. Tendershoot Dryad, 1 green, 4 other, 2/2 with Ascend, which means you have 10 or more permanents. You get this, status called City's Blessing. At the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 green sapperling creature token, and sapperlings you control get +2/+2 as long as you have the City's Blessing. That text, though, at the beginning of each upkeep, it's not just yours, all of your opponent's upkeeps as well, you're going to get to put another 1/1 onto the battlefield. How about Dragonlair Spider? 6 mana for a 5/6. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, create a 1/1 green insect creature token. So, now, I think I have rammed it all the way home. We want to be creating tokens passively so that our entire board is just filled with creature tokens. Joel, how are we going to pay this off? Well, it starts with a card like Impact Tremors. 1 red, 1 other enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Impact Tremors deals 1 damage to each opponent. Whenever a creature, not non-token creature, any creature enters the battlefield under your control, 1 to each opponent. We're going to start burning everybody down as we create tokens. Goblin Bombardment. Sack a creature. Any creature, not a non-token creature. Goblin Bombardment deals 1 damage to target creature or player. So we can start sacrificing these 0/1s and these 1/1s that mean basically nothing to an enchantment like Goblin Bombardment and just dealing damage everywhere. We can also do things like Ashnod's Altar, which is sacrifice 1 of those tokens to add 2 colorless mana to our mana pool. There's a lot of different combos where we can make a lot of mana, all the way up to infinite mana, just by having cards like Ashnod's Altar on the battlefield and a bunch of tokens that we can sack to it, use that mana to pump some big spell right onto the battlefield. Also, since we're going to be probably sacrificing these tokens to get value off of them, let's run things like Zulaport Cutthroat. 1 black, 1 other, 1/1. Whenever it or another creature you control dies, each opponent loses a life and you gain 1 life. This is a little bit of an aristocrat strategy that you can build into this deck because we're creating so many tokens that will eventually die. Prossh itself is a sack outlet, an infinite instant speed sack outlet, just on the battlefield, and it brings all those tokens into play. So with Prossh and Zulaport Cutthroat onto the battlefield, you can play Prossh, create 6 tokens, and as long as the Cutthroat is still there, sacrifice all 6 of those and deal 6 damage to each opponent. Straight up. Just with those 2 cards, and that's what we want to be doing. Poison Tip Archer is redundancy on that effect. That bottom text is all we care about here. Whenever another creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life. We can also draw cards off of it. Moldervine Reclamation. Whenever a creature you control dies, you gain a life and draw a card. So if we've got Moldervine Reclamation on the battlefield and we play Prossh, again, 6 tokens come in with Prossh, we immediately sack all of those tokens to Prossh just because we need to fill our hand back up, and Moldervine Reclamation is going to trigger 6 times. We're going to gain 6 life and draw 6 cards. That's a ton of value from 1 little enchantment just sitting on the battlefield. Now, I want to show you this card because this is a pet card of mine, and it's always been my favorite finisher in my Prossh deck, just because nobody expects it at all. 3 red, 2 other for a sorcery called Burn at the Stake. As an additional cost to cast Burn at the Stake, tap any number of untapped creatures you control. So if we play Prossh for the first time, we're probably going to minimum have 7 creatures on the battlefield just ready to be tapped to Burn at the Stake. Then Burn at the Stake deals damage to target creature or player equal to 3 times the number of creatures tapped this way. So just with Prossh, excluding all of the token creators that we went over at the beginning of this segment, just Prossh on the battlefield with the 6 tokens, we can deal 21 damage straight up to creatures or players with Burn at the Stake. That's one of the strongest bases that you can build for Prossh, in my opinion. I love this way of building it. This is a very strong way to build it. Let's look at the fun way to build it, and that is giving Prossh the munchies. So with Prossh likes to eat his kobolds of Kher keep that worship him or salute him or maybe just live in harmony in the mountain with him. But Prossh will not hesitate to sacrifice those goblins just to make his power even higher so he can hit them hard. So let's lean into the fact that Prossh definitely has the munchies and run cards like Eat to Extinction. 1 black, 3 other, exile target creature or planeswalker. Then you can look at the top card of your library and you can put that card into your graveyard. How about Eater of Hope? 2 black, 5 other for a 6/4 demon with flying. Pay 1 black, sack a creature, regenerate Eater of Hope. Pay 3 black, sacrifice 2 creatures, destroy target creature. I know we're going for a little bit of a meme here, but you know that we are going to be creating a lot of tokens, and we will be very willing to sacrifice those tokens, especially if it's just 3 mana plus 2 of our little tokens to destroy target creature. Let's run Eater of the Dead. 1 black, 4 other. At instant speed, we can remove a creature card in a graveyard from the game. It also untaps Eater of the Dead, but I just love that at instant speed, we can nuke creatures out of someone's graveyard. That's always a strong effect in Commander. How about Polychronos World Eater? Do you see where we're going with this meme of Prossh has the munchies? Polychronos eats the world. Prossh eats his followers. All right, Joel, let's move on. 2 green, 2 other for a Hydra 5/5. It's got Monstrosity of Green XX, meaning you have to pay that X twice if you're not familiar. When it becomes monstrous, it deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures your opponents control, and each of those creatures deals damage equal to its power to Polychronos. It represents a lot of damage potentially on 1 creature. Also a 5/5 for 4, pretty good mana return. Back to the meme, let's run Kiru Mind Eater. Hey, 1 black, 2 other for a menacing 1/3 vampire. When it deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles a card from his or her hand face down. You may look at and play cards exiled with Kiru Mind Eater. All right, we're doing this. Now let's go with Consume Spirit. 1 black, 1 other, X. Spend only black mana on X. It deals X damage to target creature or player, and you gain X life. This is a spell that I run in quite a few decks. It's not super powerful, but it can represent that like punch or that life gain, life drain swing that can keep you in the game. Plus, it's got the word consume in the title if you're doing an eating meme deck. Come on, Taste of Death. 2 black, 4 other. Each player sacrifices 3 creatures. You create 3 food tokens. That is flavor if I've ever seen it. How about the removal spell Bake into a Pie? Let's go. You didn't think I could find all these food eating meme cards. 2 black, 2 other for an instant speed, destroy target creature, create a food token. Boom. Got 'em. All right. Let's back up a little from the meme and look at some very strong munchies cards, and that's more cards with Devour. We went over Devour a little bit in our first section, but not only is it completely flavorful with what we're trying to do right now, but Devour can be a really strong mechanic. 2 green, 2 other for a 2/2 lizard with Devour 1, so you sacrifice any number of creatures, and Bloodspore Thrinax is going to come into the battlefield with that many 1/1 counters. Each other creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional X 1/1 counters on it, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on Bloodspore Thrinax. So we could go wide and attack with a big wide line of kobolds that Prossh has created because they're all entering the battlefield with additional +1/+1 counters. We've also got Skull Mulcher, 1 green, 4 other for a 3/3 elemental with Devour 1, and when it comes into play, draw a card for each creature it devoured so it can refill our hand. And we have to run Big Daddy Devour creature if we're going to go down this road, and that's Thromok the Insatiable. 1 green, 1 red, 3 other for a Hellion, 0/0. It's got Devour X, where X is the number of creatures devoured this way. So if you sacrifice 8 creatures, it's going to come into the battlefield with 8 times that many +1/+1 counters on it. This card grows exponentially and it grows quick. So that's the fun way that I would build Prossh, and some of those cards are actually pretty strong. I tried to aim the meme down a powerful path, if you will. Let's get over into the mean way that I would build Prossh, and that is Food Chain Combo CEDH. So Prossh Food Chain used to be a much bigger deck in the CEDH community. It has fallen down a tier or two as better commanders have come out and been printed that work better with Food Chain or in Jund colors, but I still really like running this combo in the deck just because it can kind of come out of nowhere, go infinite, and blow your opponents out. Let's take a look at the combo real quick. So here's the combo. The setup for the combo is that we need Food Chain and Prossh on the battlefield, Prossh having been cast once and created our 6 Kobolds of Kher keep over here. Food Chain says remove a creature you control from the game, add X mana of any color to your mana pool, where X is the removed creature's converted mana cost +1. The mana may only be spent to play creature spells. So what we're going to do here is exile Prossh with Food Chain and create 7 mana. It all has to be the same color, so we'll say that we have 7 black mana. We're going to use our energy drop-down menu up here to represent floating mana in our mana pool. We've got 7 black mana floating. We're going to sacrifice 1 more Kobold to create a red mana, because the converted mana cost on these tokens is 0, but +1 from Food Chain's ability is going to net us that red mana. We do it again for another Kobold of Kher keep. That's going to create the green mana that we need. So we have 9 mana, 2 more from those 2 Kobolds. We have 9 mana floating, and we have 1 color of each that we need to recast Prossh. So we will do that. We'll recast Prossh for 8 this time. We'll still have 1 mana floating. We have created now 8 more tokens for Kobold of Kher keep over here. We have energy floating 1. We have 8 + 4 creature tokens on the battlefield, and then we just repeat that over and over again. Sacrifice Prossh, add 7, sacrifice 2 more Kobolds, add the other colors that we need. We have 10 mana, we're recasting it, and we're doing this over and over again, leading to infinite creature tokens and infinite mana that can be used to cast creature spells. So we have infinite creature tokens and infinite mana that we can use to cast creatures. What can we do with that? Let's run cards like Flavorful, God of the Forge. That third line of text is what we want. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Flavorful deals 2 damage to each opponent. So if we can get Food Chain, Flavorful, and casts of Prossh going all at the same time, that's going to be infinite damage to each opponent, and we'll just win out. We can also run things like Blood Artist. If we can create infinite creature tokens, we can also sack infinite creature tokens to Prossh, and whenever it or another creature dies, target player loses a life and you gain a life. So we just loop everybody's life down, and we win through infinite means. Xenagos, God of Revels, is another way that we can take advantage of Prossh in a very mean way. This gets away from Food Chain, but I still think it's very mean. That third section down there, at the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gains haste and gets +X/+X, where X is that creature's power. So, with Prossh on the battlefield, we sacrifice the 6 tokens, that's 11 power. That gets doubled, so we've got 22 power. We swing because it has haste also from Xenagos, and if the opponent can't do anything about it, that's over the 21 commander damage needed, and we win right then and there. But that doesn't win us the whole game, actually. It just defeats one opponent, so let's seize the day here. We're going to pay 4, untap target creature, Prossh. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase, followed by an additional main phase, so we're going to get to attack again. Xenagos' ability is going to attack again. Now it's a 44 power swing, killed another opponent as long as they can interact with it, and then we can flash seize the day back for just 3 more mana. Swing, attack. It's so much damage, 88 at this point. We're dealing 88 to some opponent with haste. If we can figure it out where there's no interaction that can happen and you don't have flying creatures that can block Prossh, that's a way that we can just win the game in 1 turn, as long as we've got 7 mana to cast both pieces of Seize the Day, and we already had Xenagos on the battlefield and Prossh was ready to go. That is a mean way to wipe out your opponents. That's the strong, fun, and mean ways that I would build Prossh. Let's close the book. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Let me know down in the comments what you run in your Prossh deck. This commander's been around forever, and it absolutely is one of my favorites. Love to talk to you about it below. If there's a commander you want me to build 3 ways, leave it down there in the comments as well, and maybe you'll see it in an upcoming video. Other than that, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and check out our Patreon if you want to support us further. Other than that, I'm tapped out. We'll catch you later.